this is Governor Bobber. I like Good Day Doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday evening, everyone. You are watching Dr. Politics and the Political Architect Show. How's everyone doing? Another busy week, another day 16 or day 17 now. We're on in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is racking up those war crimes this week. You know, he blew up a hospital where newborns and infants were, and pregnant women. Amongst his other war crimes this week. How's everyone doing? Jeff, Don, how are you guys doing?
Not too bad. Getting ready for the snowstorm this evening.
Yeah, we have roughly about 6 days to get a Shamrock Shake.
So are you going to go check out Rita's to see what the Shamrock business is at Rita's?
Yeah, actually, I do want to go. I need to find a Rita's near me, though. There used to be one over on Rockville Pike, you know, there used to be one like by the Giant, you know, the Giant Food is there. It might still be there, actually. But yeah, they've got their own version of the Shamrock Shake.
Yeah, they've got 2 or 3 different kind of Shamrock products. I probably need to head over there in the next few days because there's one right next to the Lido's over by my house. So
I think it's Roy Rogers. They have a mint shake as well. It's a green shake.
Oh, really? It's not because Arby's has one too.
That's what I'm saying. Arby's has a mint shake, so it's a green mint shake.
But I'll tell you this, Rita's.
I'm sorry.
Rita's has really good Italian ice. Rita's, they've got really good orange flavored Italian ice. It's probably the best there. I'm on their website just looking for their Shamrock concoction.
Like Italian ice, like a gelato, or what?
Yeah, it's an Italian ice. Not more. It's kind of like, you know, the Italian ices you get, you know, when we were kids in little cups. Ah, yes. Dr. Chris has joined us. How are you? Off the campaign trails. We were talking about 6 days left to get a Shamrock Shake. Have you had your Shamrock Shake yet, Dr.?
I have not. I have not. I'm afraid to admit it.
You should get one. 6 more days left. Otherwise, you have to wait a whole another year for another Shamrock Shake.
The injustice of it all.
I must say, it's not as bad. I mean, this is my second one. You know, it's Starlight. Yeah, they should call it Cosmic Coke or something like that. It'd be more interesting, entertaining, I think. But so, Chris, we're busy week. You know, we'll let you lead off actually on Vlad's numerous war crimes in Ukraine.
Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah. And I haven't. This is the first time been on the show since all this started. I'm kind of. It's a mixed bag for me because I feel that. And I mean, let me rephrase that. Yes, obviously what Putin's doing is terrible. I say it's a mixed bag on. I mean, I understand the one side that we should stay. I understand when people are saying, you know, we need to not go head to head with Russia, obviously with them being a nuclear, you know, having access to nuclear weapons. But at the same time, I'm kind of torn because, I mean, at least in my life, it always seemed like America was there to stop the bullies, there to stop the bad guys. And we're just sitting on the sideline. I know we're obvious. It's good that we're doing the sanctions and we're you know, pretty much crippling them financially. But I don't know, something about it it just doesn't feel right that we're not helping the little guy who's getting.
We don't feel like we're the arsenal of democracy anymore, right? You know, we used to be the arsenal of democracy.
No, and I mean, my fiance, who's sometimes I find it interesting, you know, because she doesn't follow the news, you know, to the stretch, you know, to what I do, and even she commented, she's like, why aren't we doing anything, or are we going to go over there? I mean, so it's confusing. What do you guys think?
Well, that's a good point. I actually have got a question for you guys. See what you think, because you mentioned, like, you know, we're not really having a presence there. Obviously, we can't have a military presence, But we could have a humanitarian presence there. We could have like the Red Cross or some humanitarian agency there helping the people, because obviously there are a lot of displaced Ukrainians, and it's a clear, Geneva Convention war crime to attack a, healthcare or someone who's a responder on the battlefield. So, if we provide that aid and Russia attacks our, humanitarian efforts, I think that would be, the last straw. But what do you guys think?
I think humanitarian aid only goes so far. I mean, remember Barack Obama sent MREs and blankets the last time Ukraine was invaded on the east by the Russians. I think we need to send javelins. We need to send stingers. We need to send our old F-16s.
Yeah, we're talking like, steps here. So the first step is the fact that there are a lot of displaced Ukrainians. I mean, obviously, I think we're all agreed that, having some sort of military standoff would be ideal. But the thing is, I don't think any of us really wants to get into a war. We certainly don't want to be the one provoking it.
But we wouldn't be provoking war. I know everyone's afraid if we do this, we'll be, sometimes we got to take the stand. I mean, everyone knows how much I dislike FDR. But FDR did do one good thing, Lend-Lease to the empire. We sent over ships, we sent armaments. I mean, there is no reason why we can't send things to give stuff, say, to our NATO partners, and they could do whatever they want with it. So let's say we sent a bunch of stealth bombers to Poland. We just give them a couple of old stealth bombers and Warthogs, right? And let's say they just get stolen by some Ukrainian pilots and they end up in the Ukraine. Not our fault, Poland, the Poles might need better security on their air bases, They just happen to end up in the Ukrainians' hands. And I tell you, Putin cannot afford a war against NATO. He's not, unless he's suicidal, because if he cannot take on NATO. I mean, he has 16 days. Military experts were saying Kiev would have fallen in 2 to 3 days, And here we are at day 16, day 17, and Zelensky is still in charge in Ukraine. The Russian tank column, one of the tank columns, I believe I saw a video, was yesterday, the day before, where they got taken out by a bunch by Ukrainian drones. They're being, the lines, the Russian lines are disintegrating. I mean, they're not. I mean, obviously they got more firepower. Ultimately, they will win, but it's going to cost them dearly, frankly. And I think Afghanistan is still fresh in the minds of many Russian mothers because they don't want to see. The Russian people are just like. We don't want to see our kids die in a foreign land. They don't want to see, their kids die in a foreign land. The Russians are lying to people back home on how well the war is going. The protesters that are out there, protesting this war. Now a lot of them have been arrested because of Putin's crackdowns. So much for that democracy that they claimed they were. And what is even more infuriating, it's a good thing Joe Biden decided to stop buying Russian oil. And I think it's going to end in 3 months. It's not like he cut the spigot off the day he said that. It's about 3 months. There's like a 3-month window where we're still going to be buying Russian oil. But he's gone with hat in hand to the mullahs in Iran, and he's gone to Maduro in Venezuela. And what is up with that? What is the matter with this White House? Do they have no sense? We can drill in Anwar. We can drill. We can frack. We were an oil exporting country until 2021. We were exporting oil and we had a surplus of oil. What does old Joe Biden do when he becomes president? He decides that, hey, we're going to kill the XL pipeline. No more fracking. No more drilling on government lands. And it's basically, this is all the reason we're paying so much for gas. It's Joe Biden's fault, frankly. It is Joe Biden's fault that we're paying. In Maryland, we're paying roughly about $4.25 a gallon. And we're starting to see some of the results of higher costs for everything. Last night we had our Republican Club meeting, Don, over at Mama Lucia's, right? And you guys remember what the size of their small pizzas were, the personal size? This is what it is now. It used to be the size of the plate. The old personal size pizzas were the size of the plate. Look at that.
So you had to.
And I paid the same as I paid for when it was a bigger pizza.
Did you take that picture last night?
Yes, I did. Because I was kind of taken aback when they go, "Oh, you want a medium or a personal size?" I go, "Oh, personal size," and that's what they've always called them. And yeah, that's a lot small, and we're going to see that everywhere. If you look,
they're just doing that for your health, so you won't eat as much and won't gain as much weight. That's all.
I ran 6 miles yesterday. I should have. I could have eaten the whole. I could have eaten a. Then again, I could never. I used to never be able to finish the old size. I get like a slice and a half in, and then that'd be it. I suppose this is better because I was able to finish most of it. Got 3 of the 4 slices done.
That's the Biden bite size edition.
Yes.
Let me go back though to the comments you guys were making on Ukraine and Russia and everything like this. I mean, so here we are. This invasion started 2 weeks ago from yesterday. So and it's, as you guys have said, I mean, this is going on far longer than Putin would have expected. I mean, this was a plan of his of just a few days. He fueled his military for just a few days, and it's gone terribly wrong in that sense. Right? You're right. I mean, the numbers are pretty obvious to everybody. The numbers are in Russia's favor. They've got the military armaments. They've got the personnel to go there and do that. So they can last for a while, but at what cost? As you alluded to, this war is, I don't think Putin cares how many soldiers and how much military tanks and armament he's going to lose in this. He is determined to take over Ukraine, and he will continue to go at this full bore. But he's badly just underestimated the resolve of the Ukrainian people to stand up. There's the devastation in Ukraine. I mean, it's horrible, right? I think the other part that Putin has really kind of just underestimated was that how his own people were going to feel about it. We've mentioned the protests in the streets before in Russia, and also the fact that even if you try to knock out some communications and things like that, up into to try to give us images 24/7 of what's going on there, and showing Dwight, you've called him a war criminal, and when he starts shelling civilian targets because the military his first aim thing didn't go well, so it's okay, well now I'm going to go after innocent civilians, and he's been doing that. And I think every time he does this, the more pictures, the more we see the refugees. They've had over 2 million people have fled Ukraine. A lot of them have rushed right into Poland. Poland is overwhelmed with all the refugees. I mean, there were only like about 41 million people in Ukraine to begin with, so they've already lost a couple million. But just everybody's lives have been upended as a result of this. When Putin finally probably gains effective control of Ukraine, he's got a country that will already have been bombed the heck out of. Is he going to leave it like that? He's going to try to rebuild it, and then he's going to always be fighting, I think, just an insurgency, right? I think the people there are not going to give up. I think they're really determined to push back against Putin. So this has been a disastrous thing for him. The world stage, more and more countries, and you were talking about, why are we on the sidelines? That's an excellent question. We've here 2 weeks plus, and we really haven't done anything. On top of that, Poland has said, okay, we've got some MiGs, but we can't give them directly to Ukraine because then that'll the schism, the issues I'll have with Russia, that'll only escalate things. But how about if we give them to the U.S. and the U.S. gives them to the Ukraine? And Zelensky he wants that, and and Biden, they're just kind of saying like, no, because they're afraid that will escalate things with Putin. But exactly, why are we afraid of this? I mean, do we really? How much do we really think Putin's going to escalate this issue? Because Dwight, as you said, in essence, he does that. He's going to have to go against NATO. That's not a wise decision.
And here's it. This is reminiscence of the other Democrat that was in charge when there was an uprising against Russia, the Soviet Union, Prague. When they did absolutely nothing. And I believe the president was LBJ.
So, Don, let me ask you this question. So, what do you think our best response is? Do you think it's to send military support to either directly to Ukraine or to supporting countries? Or do you think it's to send humanitarian aid? I mean, obviously, we have sanctions against Russia, but that doesn't really help Ukraine directly. I mean, what do you think our best response is to help Ukraine directly?
Well, I mean, I think our response, as well as the world response, is to do as much as we can on the humanitarian side. I mean, that we've got to take care of those people that are suffering, that are, that have left everything behind, that have been bombed out of their homes and everything like that. Absolutely. And I think that's a relatively easy thing to get support for, within Congress. I mean, they've already approved a lot of aid money there. The military side is much harder for them to make that decision. Part of this is that it's the Democrats, right? They don't want to go, they don't want to, look like they're escalating things. I mean, Biden, he already had a disastrous pullout of Afghanistan because the idea for the Democrats is that they want to be pacifists if they can. He's still beholden to the far left part of, the party, the wing of the party. So he's kind of stuck there. But, where's the leadership? I mean, show some leadership and make some decisions. And, you're the president, you're the commander in chief, you're the leader of the free world. There are going to be tough decisions. Are you really up to this job? Do any of us really want to see us escalate this to a real war? No. But I think we have to kind of get ready to call Putin's bluff on this. Let's test Putin to see exactly where we're going. Go ahead and set up a no-fly zone and see what his reaction is. I mean, we can switch gears if we need to, but I do think that we've been kind of playing into Putin's hands because we've just really been sidling idly by and not really doing anything. Do I want thousands and thousands of U.S. troops in there right now? Not necessarily, but if this means that we're going to have to, we can help slow this down or put an end to this thing. Yeah, I mean, exactly how long does Joe Biden, do the Democrats want to see the Ukrainian people suffer? Exactly what good does that do for them?
Yeah. I mean, this is a problem the Europeans can actually, as long as we give material support to our allies in Europe, the Europeans can take on the Russians without us putting our boots on the ground, frankly. We just need to make sure they have the technology that they need to fight the Russians. Give them, the Russians don't even have night vision goggles. That's how pathetic this is. They don't have the Russians don't have night vision goggles. They don't have nearly the sophisticated weapons. I guess that whole the line they had about their hypersonic missile is just a myth. Because how is it they have hypersonic missiles, but they don't have night vision goggles? Come on.
So how about this idea? So why don't we take like a battleship, maybe a couple cruisers, put it in the Baltic Sea, basically load up, the humanitarian aid workers up on that ship, let them, get into Ukraine, help out the people that need it. But Russia will know that, just off the coast, there's a couple, U.S. warships that are watching. So
and actually, Jeff, I'll raise that and I'll say, why don't we just go and stage in Odessa? Let's send cruisers. Let's let the humanitarian ships. Let's put the Red Cross. Send out the USS Comfort, put it in the port in Odessa. The Russians will not dare take Odessa because right now they're planning on taking Odessa, which will make Ukraine.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to be take the middle position here because I'm trying to think that what the Democrats can do, which will save them face, because if they want to look like they're the humanitarians, we can send aid, but also send a message along with that too. I think that's in my estimation, that would be a reasonable approach. Without escalating, but letting us know that we're not going to just goodbye.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Chris, did you see that Joe Biden sent the new Batman villain for the next movie, The Cackler, to Poland?
I just want to ask, did anybody see this story about you were talking about the ports there? So they've got a bunch of ships stranded in the ports there. that were, they're basically delivering goods, right? I mean, just like a lot of ports. I mean, they're there to deliver merchandise and whatever, and then go on to their next port. They're stranded there because apparently the Russians have mined the harbor. They can't leave. It's like these. I mean, what is the reason to prevent these ships from leaving? They're flagged like from Bangladesh, or from all these different countries.
They actually fired. They actually had a missile that landed on the Bangladeshi.
Yeah,
ship.
I mean, and it killed a guy. I mean, apparently, when I was reading the story, this guy was supposed to, he was planning to be home within a year. He was supposed to get married. He'd been in contact with his family. He said he was fine, and then he climbed like a pole to get a better cell phone connection. And then the missile came and killed him. And you're like, come on. I mean, it's like, how much of this do we have to take? I mean, this is what should get the world up, up in arms, because there are people from other countries that are on these ships that are stranded. Even if they can offload the goods, but they can't leave. They have a limited amount of provisions. They're going to run out of food. I mean, it is just a disaster. And Putin's just like, whatever. Does he care about his oligarch friends who are being thrown out of their big mansions and they're getting squeezed? I don't think he.
But
really,
here's
I
a
don't think
question,
he
Don.
cares.
If you recall Abu Ghraib, what did CNN and other reporters talk? Reparations for the victims of Abu Ghraib. That's what CNN, MSNBC, they were all running to say. I have not heard anybody talk about the Russians paying reparations for the innocent people they're killing that are non-Ukrainians, like this Bangladeshi fellow. What's with their double standards media? Anytime we sneeze the wrong way, they want us to pay reparations to the people. Oh, sorry, we sneezed on you, and here's a bunch of American dollars for you.
Hey, let me ask you guys this, because not to call you guys out, but you're a little bit older than me.
We remember Dan Quayle.
Ageism on this program.
So, the one thing we keep hearing over and over again is, well, Ukraine's not a member of NATO, so we can't go in there. We have no obligation. We have no responsibility. But, and I know there's a lot of examples of this, but for some reason this keeps sticking out in my mind. What was our justification for when Kuwait was invaded? And this is why I'm saying I'm turning to you guys. So I was in kindergarten in 1990. But
I remember
what
was
was the justification for the United Nations, for America going in to help little Kuwait when Iraq rolled in? I mean,
the official or unofficial?
Say what?
The official.
The official or unofficial?
Yeah.
The official line was, we were there to stand up to naked aggression by Saddam Hussein against the people of Ukraine, against the people of Kuwait.
Kuwait.
And basically the other reason for it was, let's be honest, back then gas was below $1 in some places.
Yeah, we know that's the real reason.
And and by the way, we had a real president. Granted, he raised taxes on us after he said he wouldn't, but we still had a better president than we have right now. Let me tell you, George W. Bush, if he were president right now, he would be putting together a coalition around the world. And by the way, it is sinful that the Indians want to be neutral on this whole thing. You've got these other countries, and I think we should extend basically anybody that's not with us, we hit them with the same sanctions we're hitting the Russians. You want to be friends with the Russians? Fine. You don't get any help from us. No aid, no buying. We're not going to buy or sell your goods. Yeah, we should be playing hardball with. We need to isolate Russia, because let me tell you, countries like India, countries like Eritrea, they're not going to side with the Russians if they are cut off from U.S. goods and access to U.S. markets, frankly.
And that's my. I mean, yes, I agree, and that's a good point. We've gone in and helped little countries before when the bad guy has rolled in, and that's
Somalia,
what's kind of hurting me. This isn't like we've never done this kind of thing before. We have always been the great defender and gone in and help these small countries when they've been invaded. And
so there's two exceptions. So Hong Kong, I think, was one exception where we really didn't do much there. And I have a feeling that
a treaty, Jeff. Hong Kong was a treaty that the the empire was going to hand it over to the Chinese.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying
we
there
did
were a
nothing
lot
with
of
free Hong
humanitarian
Kong.
issues within Hong Kong once the Chinese took over, and they used like the excuse of like COVID and other reasonings to really suppress a lot of the free speech in Hong Kong, because China basically said we're going to leave Hong Kong alone, and they didn't. So again, it's there's more than one side there, but I'm saying. So we did nothing for Hong Kong. The second thing is I've got a feeling that if Taiwan is invaded or threatened, that we're not going to help out there either, and probably for the same reason that we don't do it for Russia. So we think they're too much of a power for us to go toe to toe on. So again, that's my personal feeling. I don't know if that's really the thing or not, but I think there's a lot of fear that Russia at least used to be a superpower. They still have a lot of prestige in terms of as a country, and so I think that we don't want to necessarily threaten them too much. I mean, they still have nukes. They still have a unfavorable government. I mean, so I don't know. I kind of feel like as most people don't want to see another world war. We're kind of just trying to be as hands off as possible for these things.
And Jeff, here's something else. We would not be worried as much about Russian nukes if we did not stop and start SDI research. Every time we have a Republican, we start funding and researching SDI. A Democrat comes in, they pull funding. Bill Clinton did that. Barack Obama did that. Joe Biden did that. I mean, if we had missile defense was for just this case. President George W. Bush at a State of the Union, when he talked about missile defense, he said we needed to protect ourselves from rogue actors in the world. And Russia is a rogue actor. North Korea, China, you got Pakistan that has nuclear missiles. We need to stand up to. We need SDI. And by the way, another bunch of folks that has blood on their hands, because this is Greta Thunberg and the environmentalists. They have blood on their hands on this. They're the ones that forced the Germans to shut down all their nuclear plants. They're the ones that are opposing nuclear energy, even though nuclear energy is the cleanest and most efficient. It's the greenest energy out there, nuclear energy. Nuclear power plants. They shut those down. They shut down the coal plants. So now they're held hostage to natural gas from the Russians. I think
I don't blame Greta. I mean, she's just a kid, but the thing is that
she's an adult now, and I blame all of the environment. Al Gore. Okay, let me blame. Is it better if I blame Al Gore for this?
So again, I think again, Germany is a sovereign state. They can do what they want to. I don't agree with that. Again, we talked this before. France has gone all into with nuclear. Germany has said we're not doing any nuclear. I think time will show that France has the better policy and Germany doesn't. But ultimately, that's their own.
No, I don't think anybody's ever said that ever in the history of the world.
What's that?
The French have better policies than the Germans.
Yeah, I mean, they don't do everything wrong. They have free love. But no,
they did give the world croissants, and the Eiffel Tower.
But again, I think, and there are other. Again, I how I am. I mean, I've got a whole spiel on next gen energy, so I won't go into that. But the point of it is that if we really want to have energy independence, there are ways to do that. The problem is that the administration just doesn't feel like tackling that issue. They have all these, I don't know. I hate to say tree hugger, but all these programs that make people feel good, like this has zero impact on the environment, and they don't realize what the true impact is for solar power, for wind power. These things like wind power. I mean, that causes a lot of problems with birds. It causes it uses a lot of landscape. There are a lot of just environmental issues.
Look at the Kennedy families. They have to look at those. They even the Kennedys oppose wind farms. They don't want to see them in Hyannis when they're at their compound looking at the ocean. They want to see those trees, the wind farms there.
Right, but just from an environmental standpoint, there's issues there, and people talk about like hydrothermal. People don't realize that there's more radiation that comes out of hydrothermal than nuclear plants, because hydrothermal releases natural radiation from the earth, but they don't count that because that's like naturally occurring radiation as opposed to
artificial radon. That's also natural. Radon's also natural, Jeff. Is it like radon?
Yeah, it's like radon, but there's other radioactive materials that's in below the crust. That is what in fact keeps the core molten. Is we have a radioactive core. I mean that's that is what keeps
I think
alive.
and because this kind of really leads really well into. For up, many of us were paying $4 for gas. Monday, I filled up for $3.93. That same gas station was what was it? I don't want to misquote myself, but that gas station was $4.29 yesterday, and it's this morning. It's I bet if I go there tomorrow, it'll be even more than that. And I'm glad I filled up on Monday because I got it for under $4. I don't think I'll ever see that in the near future again. And then you have CNN, the liberal elite say, go buy an EV. And what is the average price of an EV? About $50,000. $50,000.
It's not just. I mean, it's not just CNN. I mean, I want to kind of go back to Chris's remark. I want to go back and say, Chris, in my opinion, part of the thing about the whole Kuwait deal and all these things helping the little guy is that over the last few decades, what's happening is that the left in particular has basically made it very unpopular, this whole thing about that the U.S. should not be the world's policeman. And as a result of that, we now have to be, very careful, tread carefully as to what we do and how we act militarily. We were dealing with the war on terror in Afghanistan and Iraq and things like that. And that's one thing. But as that winds down, it's like now we have just kind of a peacekeeping force, but it really doesn't do a lot. And we don't do what we used to do in a lot of these countries, especially from when I was younger, and Jeff, and I agree with you, Jeff. I mean, we shouldn't blame, Greta Thunberg or whatever. I mean, it is just these left-wing environmentalists on this type of thing. So I listened to one of the podcasts I listened to is called This Week in Tech, and the host of the show is from their show takes place in Northern California. They have hosts out there, and he's an admitted liberal, and usually the people on that particular program are all very much in line with him politically. But it's a tech show. It's supposed to be a tech show. But there I am finally listening to this past week's episode when I'm at the gym, and they're having a discussion about energy, and and they mention the shelling of Chernobyl, which was decommissioned. They took that out in 2000. And then the power got cut off, and they had enough power to run it for 48 hours. It wasn't going to necessarily expose any radiation, but the cooling, the rods have been cooling for like 22 years. And then if there's no energy, they're not going to be cooling anymore. A little bit of a problem, in Ukraine, if this is going to be. But he says, the host is, this guy's like, he says, that scares me, that, and, that type of thing. He says, so we have to get, we can't have that. He says, we have lots of sun, we have enough sun to basically power everything. And I'm like, this is the problem with liberty. They think the sun and the wind can handle everything. We'll take care of everything, that everything on our grid can be taken care of by sun and by wind. There's no common sense whatsoever with these people. They're so devoid of reality on these issues. It's just stunning. With this, and pretty much the rest of this group is all kind of in agreement with this, this whole thing, and it's really a tragedy that they foist that kind of opinion upon their listenership, where there's not a call-in show, so nobody gets a chance to go back and and to counter with that. I mean, it's just the knowledge from the tech standpoint, a lot of other things is good. The politics of that show are horrendous. It just drives me up a wall with that. So anyway, I had to have my piece. And then back to Dwight and the whole gas price. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
By the way, do you remember the old Occidental Petroleum? They used to had a division of theirs called Sun Energy or something like that. And their tagline was, we need energy and the sun's got a lot of it. That was their tagline.
Yeah, look,
but
just listen to this. As we say, the other thing about all of this stuff. I mean, you were mentioning the EVs there, Dwight. So
yeah.
So this is the great administration. What do they call it? You have Pete Buttigieg out there and saying it's like, look, EVs. it's really the answer with these high gas prices for the poor people and the people who live in rural areas, kind of thing like that. It's like, what is he doing in charge of anything?
Don, this is the EV for the poor people. It's only $40,000, $900. McDonald's workers, we're paying you $15 an hour. Guess what? You won't have a place to stay, but you'll be able to maybe make a payment on a $40,000.
Ford makes a small EV pickup. I think the Maverick. It's about $20,000.
Yeah.
But Ford is not really crazy about that because I think it's just the margins are probably lower, so they're not really enthusiastic about selling that car in particular. But please tell me, I want Pete Buttigieg to tell me exactly what the plan is. All of this renewable energy, all of this green stuff, why does it exist? Why has Elon Musk made a fortune? It's because of you, me, and every other taxpayer that are being subsidized. All of these tax credits, these industries could not have made it with all these huge subsidies, which are being financed by all of us here on this program and anybody else there watching it, and but they don't realize, they don't really think about that. So what's the government's responsibility? So is he basically saying, so these lower income people, we're going to help you with the low gas prices, because are we going to give them a $20,000 tax credit so they can go buy an EV or something like that? And then how are they going to charge it? Does that mean they're also going to subsidize and tell the apartment complex and the condo people and things like that, by the way, here's a bunch of money so you can now have a whole bunch of charging stations in your parking lot, right? For all those people who are living in these apartments and condos and stuff like that. Because unless the government's going to give them money, I don't see apartment owners and condo people putting a lot of chargers in. All of a sudden, a lot of EVs is coming out here.
By the way, NASA Goddard, okay, there's a lot of people that have EVs that work at NASA, right? Somebody actually once mentioned it, why don't we have any charging stations on the Goddard campus? And they're like, oh, we're not going to do, the answer was just, we're just not going to do that. And somebody told me the real reason is the government's not allowed to give away stuff. When did that happen? The government's not allowed to give away stuff? I mean, it's kind of like giving away free electricity is like giving away free government cheese, I guess, but it's crazy. I mean, that the left thinks everybody should. I mean, talk about being out of touch. I remember they said George W. Bush was out of touch, or George H.W. Bush was out of touch because he only bought a pair of socks at the JCPenney in Frederick on his way back from Camp David. I mean, people say I'm out of touch because I think $55,000 is an affordable car for the average American. But hey, that's me. I'm a little eccentric, a little out of touch. Sometimes, but I do understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, all these gas prices too. I mean, so the next step is that Biden is using that as all these prices and this conflict as a cover, saying like this is Putin inflation. This is Putin it's responsible for these high gas prices. But there's far we all know on this program there's far more to it than that. They were already going up anyway beforehand as we were getting squeezed, because we just don't have, we're importing, right? We went from the exporter to the importer, and so who I really feel sorry for though, who need diesel fuel, because I have never seen diesel prices this high. Unbelievable. I mean, if this is the backbone of how we transport a lot of our goods. It's like this has got to be killing these truckers and everybody else, which then in turn gets back to our table, right? Our
$5.11 is what diesel is right now.
It's got to be transported, and if the fuel costs are going through the roof, if you think inflation is high now, just hold on to your hats.
I mean, I found even this week I'm driving less than I normally would drive. I mean, I basically try to combine my trips. If I need something to do, I wait to have 2 or 3 things to do so I can get them all done at once. And I mean, it's, I may be out of touch, but I think for most of us, the higher price of gas, we won't like to pay it, but we'll still be able to afford to pay it. But I mean, the person, the Uber driver, the McDonald's workers, the people that are making my Shamrock shakes for me. They can't afford this kind of price of gas and what they're making. What's going to be next? Are they going to raise the minimum wage to $25 or give them like a gas stipend? Or,
Oh, Dwight, it sounds like you're in favor of that. Are you in favor of raising the minimum wage?
Oh no, not at all. Not what? No way. I'm just saying, maybe here's the thing. Good news is if you work at McDonald's, you've got plenty of alternatives. Usually, there's a bus line that will take you to that McDonald's. You can take a bus to McDonald's. You can, if you live close enough, you can walk to your work and stuff like that. But my point is, for the party that cares about the little guy, they're letting the little guy fall by the wayside. That's my point. I am against all minimum wages, frankly. I think minimum wage should be like $5 or something like that. It shouldn't even be more than that, but Montgomery County is going to raise it to 15 something by July 1 this year. That's our wonderful county council.
Yeah, and those things don't right now in this environment with the labor shortage. Those actions don't really mean a whole lot because a lot of the employers that they were targeting have already gone well beyond that because they're just, they're so desperate to find workers. Never did I really think that the local McDonald's or something like that would wind up paying $15 to $20 an hour for people to staff these things. But that also means that your burgers and fries and shakes, they're going to inevitably have to cost more. There's a limit to where these restaurants can absorb all these increases before they've got to pass them on. And they already got slammed during the pandemic, not just with the closings, but with the tremendous cost of having to test people.
Don, remember, don't forget this. This was just last night. This is the price. Yeah.
I just saw an article. Hong Kong has had very restrictive measures about COVID, right? And there was an article about Cathay Pacific, the big airline, and they were just starting to kind of bounce back a little bit. Their passenger volumes and their freight volumes were increasing, and then the government said, no, you can't have. They're flying about 450 people a day on their planes. They're down. They're about 2% of where they were in 2019, but I think the CEO was quoted saying, they've had their employees take over 230,000 COVID tests. 16 were positive. It's like, okay, so I think we've gone a little too far if there's 16 positive tests out of 230,000. Things are kind of wacky.
But it's really. How are things out in Carroll County, Chris? What's the price of gas out there?
It's definitely a little bit cheaper than down in Montgomery County. I honestly, I don't even know off the top of my head right this second.
But did you hear our?
Do you have anything like a bus club out by you or anywhere near?
They got Wawa's.
We have a BJ's wholesale. I'm not a member of that, so kind of screwed.
They got a Wawa's over at in Westminster, right?
Keep it down a little bit.
We have a Wawa in Westminster.
By the way, did you hear our wonderful?
There's a guy. You can keep going. There's a guy who's keeping track of all this on Facebook. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, did you hear our wonderful state Democrat legislators feel we're going to get a tax holiday now for 30 days from the state gas tax, which is tied to inflation because of Martin O'Malley. Did I just say Martin O'Malley? I guess I did. But yeah, and I hate to say something nice about Peter Franchot because he's just another Tacoma Park liberal, but he wanted a 3-month holiday on the gas tax. Wow.
I'm really conflicted about this whole gas tax thing because I guess first of all, the first time that I saw being proposed, it was by a bunch of liberal Democrats in Congress. They were trying to push for all of these things. And it spread through a lot of state legislatures and things like that. Now, a lot of states are flush right now from the COVID money and from just booming tax revenues, so that they're throwing that out. But 30 days what's the real impact? I mean, psychologically, that's great. I mean, you and I and anybody else would love to save 30 cents or whatever the gas tax is in any particular jurisdiction, for the state, on that temporary thing. Then it's going to go back up. And, in Maryland, as you were we still face that other, it's kind of a sword of Damocles hanging over our head. Is that, I think isn't it every like July 1st? That's when the state gas tax increases by the rate of inflation. That was, as you said, Martin O'Malley. That was something he had put in. I understood why they were trying to do that, because they were trying to grow those revenues, but no one felt that inflation at 2% or less was going to kill anybody. But if they're starting to tie it to a CPI when the CPI runs up at 5, 6, 7%, it starts adding whole pennies to the whole thing. It just adds that much more pain at the pump for everybody. And I think the state legislature is going to take a look at it. But I don't know how much these states can afford to really spend by giving the tax holiday. I think the Democrats really like this idea because they are so far behind for the November election. I mean, inflation and gas prices are going to kill them in November. I mean, they're literally going to get slaughtered, and they've got to find ways of doing that. And I think that, the Democrats, they'd love to at points like, hey, look, we cut your gas tax, for a month or 2 months, way back, and stuff like that. But if you do this, it's a little trick. I mean, prices are high now, but they do it now. I mean, it's March. The election's in November. Are the people in November going to remember, that they had a gas tax holiday in March or April?
Do we know which month? Does it start next month, or does it start April 1, the 30-day holiday, or today?
Well, I mean, Hogan has to sign. It was supposed to be emergency legislation. He has to sign it, and then I guess it depends on what's in that document. And they'll
probably made that October 1 to October 31st is when they're going to have that holiday.
I don't want to give any ideas. The thing always gets me about oil prices too is just that it seems pretty standard that when we get these spikes through oil price spikes, so this one was very fast, in terms of how rapid it rose, and so we saw these incredible increases in gas prices within a week's time. Oil prices had fallen 15% or more, 20% or more in the last couple of days. But it's going to take a little. It goes up fast as oil prices go up, and it comes down a lot slower as oil prices come down.
I mean, remember at the beginning of COVID when oil was below $1, we had to pay them to put the oil in our car.
It was a weird thing on that futures market. It went to to zero below. It was crazy. How it was
like $15. Negative $15 was the price of gas. But you notice when the gas prices are going up, you can fill up for one price in the morning, and the evening it shoots up another $1 or something like that. I mean, we saw that at the beginning.
It changes. I mean, it can change. It's just within a matter of hours. It just depends.
The average in Carroll County today is $4.26. That's what I'm.
That's
seeing.
a lot.
So that's trending in the same direction. Yeah.
And I tell you, wait till the summer. I mean, we're still on the winter blend. When we switch over to the spring blend, that always raises the price of gas anyways, because it's a richer. It's not as rich. It's more refined. Needs to be refined more for the summer months, right? That's going to kick up the price of gas. I think we'll see $6 gas in Maryland. I don't wish we see it, but I think we will see it by sometime in June. We'll probably be hovering around $6 a gallon. I don't see how any Democrat runs for governor on $6 gas and gets elected.
I hope I want you to be dead wrong, Dwight, just because I've got my daughter's expecting her 6th child, and it'll be in
Congratulations.
July. We have another road trip planned. That's 700 miles one way. I just don't want to spend the extra money if I do.
Yeah. But isn't one of your Lexus a hybrid?
Nope. I almost bought a hybrid Lexus a few years ago and waited and then wound up getting a different one. Now I'm thinking maybe I should have bought the hybrid.
Well, Lexus is going all electric. They're going to be all EVs, soon.
Well, I
Just
mean,
like Cadillac.
that's the whole idea, right? I mean, the whole idea for Joe Biden and company is to go to be zero emissions and everything like that. Which actually, Jeff, one thing as we talk about Biden too and all this stuff, and I know you love the whole energy space, is that he's signing off on this whole thing about crypto, right? Wants to kind of look at crypto and digital dollars and stuff like that. And I'm like, you do understand that mining crypto is very energy intensive, right?
Right.
That's really
Well,
going along with the zero emission.
Yeah, and people may or may not realize. So there was a competing crypto type coin that was based upon hard drives, and we had a real hard drive shortage for a while because there was I think there's like the Chia coin, which was based upon like
Is it
basically
like the Chia Pet?
yeah, it was based upon like storage space, and so instead of like proof of work in terms of computational space, it was proof of work based upon storage space, and so people were gobbling up hard drives left and right, and it really tanked the market. But I mean, try to buy a graphics video card nowadays, you cannot, and if it is, you're paying literally twice as much as what the retail price is because you still have crypto miners that use those cards because it's more, cost effective for a crypto miner to buy that card and use it than for a normal person. So again, we already have a chip shortage. This exacerbates this, and again, it's just one of those things that makes a bad situation worse. Plus, there's a lot of volatility in crypto, obviously, and so besides all of the inherent Bitcoin volatility, there's all these meme coins that come up and pop up, and they're who knows if they're good or bad, but everyone wants to be the first in the bandwagon, so they invest and they shoot up, and then who knows if they tank or not. But there are rules in place for to go against like what they call pump and dump scams for the typical stock market. There are no such regulations for the crypto, and there's no built-in guards for this. So people can make millions of dollars, but people can lose millions of dollars. So again, it's just one of those things that obviously it's a difficult space to know what to do with, other than the fact that the IRS wants to tax it. But beyond that, it's to your point, yeah, crypto is not energy efficient. It consumes resources for no real gain, and just besides all of the heat and electricity used for that, it exacerbates chip shortages and other consumer inflation indexes where people can't buy things because they're all hoarded by people who can pay more for them.
Yeah, and we have I mean El Salvador, didn't they make Bitcoin part of the official currency? And it's like that's a high risk.
I still yeah, I dabbled with crypto, but I still think crypto's a fad, frankly. I don't see. I view it as the same as the tulip bulb exchange of the 1700s in Denmark, and
it's not a fad, but the problem is that it's just not based upon any inherent value. So we used to have the government dollar used to be backed by silver and gold reserves, where you could actually it was literally backed by gold or silver. We don't back anything anymore with the currency, but the Federal Reserve, manages the printing of money.
With the green ink that's at the United States Mint. That's what backs our dollar.
But again, but we have a lot of stability just because we trade in dollars and we control the printing of the dollar. In Bitcoin, there's really no control other than the fact that there are built-in computational limits for Bitcoin. But the fact that Bitcoin is, and I don't know how many thousands of dollars it is per Bitcoin. I mean, I still remember when Bitcoin was a few hundred for Bitcoin, and now it's gone up to tens of thousands of dollars per Bitcoin. It's just, again, I don't have a problem with that intrinsically, but if you're going to use it as a financial trading mechanism, then nobody's going to use it. I mean, even Tesla, which Elon was like all big in crypto for a while, Tesla decided we're not going to use crypto to for cars because it's just too volatile. I mean, if you buy a Tesla in 5 Bitcoins today, and you can return it and get 6 Bitcoins a month from now because it's worth more, what again, they'll lose money. So it just doesn't make sense for them to deal with that. So
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say Elon. I mean, he backed off the acceptance of Bitcoin for the cars, and then instead, they used some of their money and they basically bought Bitcoin as part of their cash, their corporate treasury. So in a sense, when you're buying Tesla stock, you're buying it, partially on the value of what you think it is, how many cars to sell and stuff like that, but then also for the fact of what's their Bitcoin treasury. Bitcoin today is $39,000, and it fluctuates, like you said. I mean, it fluctuates wildly all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think it was not Salesforce; it's the other one. MicroStrategy. They also they put a ton of money of their corporate money into Bitcoin. That's a risk, right? I mean, it goes down a lot, then you've got to you take that loss on the books for that quarter. It goes up, you can increase your profits, but that makes valuing a company much harder because the swings can be very wide in any given day and everything. So, all right, Dwight, what do you think about final thoughts? I guess we're getting towards
final thoughts. Let's see. I got a lot on the final thoughts. So why don't we start with Chris on final thoughts, multiple thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the gas.
Hey, before you do that, tell us how's your campaign going?
It's going great. I mean,
I see you doing sine waves.
Yeah, I've been sine waving like I'm getting paid for it, and I'm not. But yeah, sine waving out in the cold, the rain, everything. Started door knocking last week. Got another order signs in. Yeah, checking all the boxes. I mean, going to every single function under the sun in Carroll County. Mm-hmm. Raising money actively, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, it's just obviously like anybody running in for Congress or for well, actually, it's not even just legislative or congressional. I mean, you have a lot of county councils, county councilmen who have no idea what they're running. But yeah, I don't know what my district is. I mean, it could be practically like 3/4 of the county. It could be an at-large district that includes most of the county, or it could be a single member that's 1/4 of the county. So right now I'm just and there's there's very little common ground between the two maps. So I'm basically just working the whole county right now. So.
And if you win the primary, you win the election pretty much, right?
Yeah, there's only other than the Democrat Central Committee, there's only one Democrat who's filed for a partisan election. Yeah, so yeah, there's no Democrats that filed for a delegate.
There we go. You get to be delegate once you win.
Yeah, just the primary is what you got to win in Carroll County. So
cool. Now your final thoughts.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, obviously the gas and Ukraine, which kind of crossed over, pretty much dominated the conversation, but rightfully so. But yeah, I guess I wanted to mention, bring up that it's been interesting watching or seeing in the last week, and I don't really know how to totally take it, but I think we probably all saw that Kelly Schultz's campaign started the website pushing back and attacking Dan, which I think I can see things on both sides. One that worries me that maybe she's seeing that her camp is seeing that he's gaining some momentum. But on the other side, I'm really glad that they are kind of confronting it and pushing back, because I mean, I know on a grassroots county to county scale, we're definitely seeing, the Dan Cox people being very vocal and they've been throwing shade since day one. So it is nice to see that the Kelly camp is pushing back. I just don't know if they're seeing numbers that are concerning. But anyhow, that's my final thought. But I feel like I might have just opened the conversation there. So sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, final thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, I was trying to think. There's really not much on my mind other than just the fact that the whole Ukraine situation.
Why don't you update us on your campaign for Central Committee first? Like, first tell us. Your
Right,
Central
right.
Committee
So
race. How's your
I
website
just
coming? Is it up?
my website is now mostly like 99% functional. I'm still working
Nice.
to tune it up a little bit, but
Remember, that's what
mo-
the Emperor said about the Death Star in Return of the
yeah,
Jedi. And then he said it's
yes,
fully operational.
yeah, no no laser beams on the website, fortunately, but yeah, not really any
No
big
plan.
structural holes either. But yeah, voteforthornton.com is the website, but yeah, and, there's a lot of, I think there's 13 applicants for the Central Committee in Howard County, so there's only 9 vacancies, so we'll see how that goes. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, most of the people that I know look like they're pretty strong, so I'm, I would love to be on the Central Committee, but I'm not worried if things don't go my way. But ultimately, I'd love to be more active in this area and help out with campaigns and some of the missions here. So Howard County definitely is a good county, as a lot of the folks here say, but there are some issues too, and especially when it comes to how things are being kind of future zoned. So Dwight can tell you how like Montgomery County used to be kind of like the pride of Maryland for schools and other things, and it's kind of gone
Yes.
downhill. Howard County is kind of heading towards that direction a little bit if we're not careful.
They're
So,
trying Montgomery County, Howard County is what they're trying to do.
so Howard County still has good schools. They still have good properties, but people are trying to take too much advantage of the what's been built up and kind of capitalize, kind of cash out on it. And I think that's
Back, Jeff, in the day when we were in high school, Howard County had a moratorium. You could not build a house on anything less than 1 acre.
yeah. And now people are building like in people's backyards. I mean, they're sublotting all kinds of properties just because the property is so crazy expensive. I mean, it's and I understand it, but again, to your point, Dwight, yeah, there needs to be controlled growth. It just can't be like a free for all, because there are a lot of things that were planned out, and the planning is part of what makes a community attractive, because you don't have houses right on top of each other. You have well thought out streets and thoroughfares and infrastructure. If your goal is just to make as much money as possible, then yeah, you can tear down all the old houses, put 2 houses there in place.
They're doing that in Bethesda. They're like taking out 1,200, 1,400 square foot homes and putting up McMansions with 0 yard space.
Yeah. So again, I think the people don't want that, but unfortunately, the people that do the zoning don't always feel the same. And there are sections of that Howard County has kind of been rezoned a little bit. So Reed Novotny is in District 9B. That's half of Howard
9A,
County.
9A.
9A. I'm sorry.
He's 9A.
9A. So 9B and 9A kind of split it down the middle, and then I think it's District 13 is the other one that kind of is like the lower bit of it. So it's really kind of weird how it's split off. But anyway, it's that gerrymandering, whether people want to try to get their nexus of power in one area. But again, the problem is that just left unfettered and left to its own devices, it can really start to degrade the quality of the schools, the communities, the properties. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think needs to be nipped in the bud before it gets too out of control.
Hey, well, good luck. Good luck.
Any final thoughts?
Just keep the Ukrainians in your thoughts and prayers. And again, I'm hopeful, and I don't know how to do it, but
And vote for
I'm
Jeff
sincere
Thornton
about
on
getting.
June 28th.
What's that?
And vote for Jeff Thornton on June 28th for Central Committee.
Yes. So yeah, the point is, like I said, I think if we can pressure the politicians in Washington to really take a more of an active interest in Ukraine, because they are friendly towards us. I mean, I know in California, one of the companies that I do work for, they have most of their developers are Ukrainians, and that whole sector is just obviously shut down at this point because they can't do any work. But these are people that have families, they have real lives that are being disrupted for no good reason. And if we don't want to stand up to Russia toe to toe, let's at least give direct aid to Ukraine in some fashion, whether it's monetary aid, humanitarian aid, or provide arms to, I hate to say backdoor dealings, but to our allies that can get them to Ukrainians in a way that is not directly putting us in the face of Russia. So I mean, I don't know. It's a tough thing, but I think that there's enough room there for us to do work, real good work for Ukraine. So I don't have the answers. I'm certainly not, this is not my primary job to to be a politician, but I certainly think that there are people that have thought this through and can really make a change. And I think it's just, we need to have, again, when I say we, I mean like our federal government needs to develop a bit of a backbone and take a stand, whatever it is, whether it's, a direct military or humanitarian. You just, do something other than just say, well, we're going to, say Russia's in the corner for the time, and they're in a timeout because, we're not going to do business with them. But that's like, that's really not going to dissuade them from any of their attacks on Ukraine, in my opinion. That's my
Final thoughts, Don Irvine?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, for my wife's native South Korea, they had an election really tight. I think there were well over 30 million votes cast, and the conservative won by about 256,000. And so I mean, in South Korea, you don't have to have the 50%. You just have to have the plurality there. So he beat the opponent who was more to the left. He's replacing a left-leaning president of South Korea right now. He vows to be tougher on North Korea. We'll see if he'll be able to do that, and he wants to probably strengthen the relationship with the U.S., which is good. And so that's good if they can help keep North Korea a little more at bay, and they can get U.S. cooperation to keep the crazy man from trying to throw a lot of missiles around. So that'll be good. The other thing is that I was definitely skeptical that we would actually see the Major League Baseball season this year, or at least the full schedule, and the union and the owners. Yeah, I knew that was going to come sooner or later. The union and the players have agreed. The players and the owners have agreed to another collective bargaining agreement. I have a lot of mixed emotions about how these things go. I mean, both sides have been painted by the opposition as kind of evil and things like that. One of the interesting things is that players really wanted to play, but they have their negotiating committee, but each team has got a player rep, and the negotiating team basically was like, they didn't really like this deal, but the player reps voted 26-4 for it. So that was kind of a repudiation of their own union leadership, and the players as a whole will probably, go ahead and vote for that too, because you don't play, you don't collect your paycheck. And, Max Scherzer is going to collect a ton of money this year, and he'd like to get on that field. Plus the fact he's a tremendous competitor. But yeah, the Orioles, one of the things that's always been discussed is, this whole tanking thing so they can stock up on draft and rebuild. But boy, the Orioles have been in this tanking position, it seems, for years. And there's nothing in the bargaining agreement that really addresses the issue of how teams from tanking. They made some tweaks, but there's no minimum floor of salaries.
Well, let me just
the Orioles have to spend a lot of money on salaries. They don't even do this because they're spending so little money on player salaries. They still make money.
And let me tell you this, Don. I believe in Orioles magic, but I think we need regime change in Baltimore. We need regime change. And I know people seem to hate Dan Snyder for the owner of the Washington Redskin Commanders, but the Orioles ownership is even worse.
They should have just named them the Washington Redskin Commanders.
Yeah. Well, Cobra Commander is their new mascot. Instead of the, he's going to be there with his Cobra gear on.
Yeah, but Peter Angelos as an owner has been. I mean, the way they've run things the last several years has been dreadful. And
it's time for him to go.
It's a disservice to the fans, to put a product like that on the field, where you're going to be lucky to win 50 to 60 games a year. That's not the way baseball should be. Is that when you're purposely putting players on the field because you're under the guise that you're going to rebuild. But I mean, it didn't take that long for the Houston Astros to go through their tanking strategy and then wind up at the top, right? I mean, the Orioles seem to be taking a whole different view of this.
Well, the Orioles, let me tell you, the dream is now that Cal Ripken doesn't want to run for Senate from Maryland because we know he could beat Chris Van Hollen, but he doesn't want to run. Maybe he should buy the Orioles. Cal Ripken should become the owner of the Orioles. And because let's face it, Peter Angelos is one of those stinking tobacco attorneys. Okay, he made a lot of money on the tobacco side to let him buy the Orioles. Frankly, it's time for Peter Angelos to go. Frankly, and all you people that hate Dan Snyder, Angelos is a 20 times worse of an owner than Dan Snyder. Frankly, the guy's a despicable Democrat. I don't think there's a Democrat he doesn't fund in this state. He's just a dreadful human being. But anyways, back to your final thoughts.
I think one of Ames' former employees married one of his daughters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
he always tried to say that he was a nice man. I'm like, I don't know Peter Angelos personally and everything like that, and he probably.
But we know his politics though.
But his business practices with the Baltimore Orioles, fans should just be up and they have to go through this every single year.
Free the birds.
The Nationals are not. They're going to be terrible this year, but the team wasn't really the team just tore themselves apart because they weren't going anywhere and they're going to rebuild. Mm-hmm. But they're not purposely going to tank.
That's so true.
All right, I'm done.
Okay. First, I would like to say thank you to Governor Bob Ehrlich. He endorsed me this week for my county council race. Thank you, Governor Ehrlich. Much appreciated. And we've got a couple. Before I get to my final thoughts, I do want to mention that we've got coming up this Monday. I don't know, Chris, if you're around Monday or have time, but Monday is Pi Day. 3.14, and this is how we celebrate.
Well, Dwight's favorite days of the year.
Yeah, that's when the Shamrock Shakes come out as my favorite day of the year. This is maybe the second.
Priorities.
But as you see, tickets are very reasonable. So, Chris, if you want to come on out to, this is the northern part of Montgomery County, so it's not as bad for you to get out there, I guess, maybe. But if you want to come on out, and then I got my campaign kickoff on the 25th.
I think I can. I just actually put it on my calendar. I think I can make the kickoff. I cannot make Pi Day, but I can make the kickoff, I believe.
Kickoff is Maryland Day, so you know what we're going to have? We're going to have some Smith Island cake there.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, Don, I think you definitely should come. Yeah, and there you go, Chris. There you are. Yeah. It's a beautiful website. But, one thing I do want to bring up in my final thoughts, we talked about this briefly when we were off the air, is there's a new trend out there that the left hates now. You think the left can't hate, but now they hate modern architecture. They call it hostile architecture or defensive architecture. Like they're saying they're making things like park benches with handrests in the middle that prevents homeless people from, maybe it's not a bad thing we don't see homeless people at the park when you have kids there and other people that are trying to enjoy the day and see, inebriated folks sleeping on the park bench. They are, and what's funny is a lot of these, quote, hostile architecture features have been put in by leftist city mayors, that don't want to see homelessness. It's kind of like when the Democrats had their convention in New York City, they actually bust out all the homeless people from near Madison Square Garden so they wouldn't be seen on television, homeless people. But it really is, and I think, they start off, I was reading an article about, it all starts off, they blame the French, they go after the French Revolutions, French architects designed the large boulevards to prevent the peasants from barricading the narrow streets, so there would never be another French Revolution. Were they wrong? Anyways. So basically that's the new hate of the week. It just started this month. Architectural Digest had an article about it. There was There's I Googled it and I looked stuff on YouTube. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that don't like hostile. A lot like they're saying how subway stations have hostile architectures because they got rid of the traditional benches and they got leaning benches where you know, and they say they've lowered the back so they make them purposely uncomfortable for people to sit, and so on. So
Yeah, it's funny, Dwight. You see the house architecture in the left states. You see them in like San Francisco. You see them in New York. You see them in DC. You don't see them in like Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, it's very balmy. It's a very pretty city, but you don't see hostile architecture there. You don't see them in
You don't see them in Florida either.
Yeah. So again, I understand that nobody really wants to be, face to face with a drunkard, but this also is part of the larger social issue where, if the left really were concerned about, the disenfranchised, the homeless, the people that really, need help, there would be better support systems for them. But, as it is, I think you've seen some of the shelters and some of the, places that people have as an option to sleep at. And these aren't really any better than sleeping on the streets. So what are the choices there? I mean, again, so I mean, it's a bad situation. I certainly understand both sides, but when it comes down to it, you're fixing the symptom, not the problem, in my opinion. But anyway.
And honestly, it all really goes back to the broken window theory of fighting crime. Honestly, it's like, do you really want people? I mean, if you're a business person, I'm sure you don't have this problem in Carroll County, Chris, but I mean, if you're a business, do you really want to have a bunch of people loitering outside of your stores? I mean, I tell you, I know, but I tell you, I was at the Kensington Safeway not too long ago, where there's a whole, where, I mean, it's becoming more and more frequent, is where I will be hit up for money by somebody in the parking lot that wants, and I, because we're quickly becoming a cashless society, I don't have a cash to give them, but I think it's, and then one day I saw the homeless people inside the Safeway asking people as they're going into the store, in the area where they put the carts. You're not exactly in the store, but I'm like, come on, we're supposed to be trying to shop there, it's like, and not to be that guy, but I think a lot of the homeless people I see in Montgomery County are professional homeless people. Like, I don't know if you remember the Chris Rock bit where there's a neurosurgeon and Chris Rock's the squeegee guy and he's begging for money. And the neurosurgeon goes, have you thought about getting a job? And he goes, excuse me, do not interrupt me in my, he goes like, what do you do? He goes, I'm a neurosurgeon. Oh, so you're a brain surgeon, are you? Do you see me coming into your place of business and telling you how to perform brain surgery? No. So please extend that same professional courtesy that I do to you by not telling me how to do my business in my place of business. And then they did a sequel where he actually goes in, where the doctor's performing brain surgery, comes in there and is like, you don't like it so much, do what I tell you. But honestly, homelessness is a problem, but I think a lot of it is professional homelessness. There was a story years ago in the Washington Post about a homeless guy in Bethesda that would come up here, and then he'd go to Florida, and he had a home in Florida where he stayed at during the winter months. And he was pulling down almost like $5,000 a week, tax-free, as a homeless guy.
So, I mean, I agree, Dwight. And the thing, too, is that this is why, and again, this is a larger issue, so I won't go into it, but, I understand that police aren't always the best people to call in all such circumstances. I'm not for defunding the police, but I am for allowing the right kind of trained professionals to deal with situations. So, like when it comes to domestic disputes, homelessness, the police aren't necessarily the best people to contact for those situations. There should be some sort of social service worker that deals with these people and finds them a home. And if it's something where they choose to saying, well, I don't want a home, I just want to be out here, panhandling, then that would be a larger problem. Because again, I think to your point, there are, on the way to Sam's Club, there's a guy on Old Whiskey Bottom by Route 1 who's always there, every day panhandling. So it's like he's always there. I don't know his situation, but 9 times out of 10 he is there. And
remember, that's his place of business, so please extend your professional courtesy to him.
But honestly, I understand people want to have compassion for people and want to help them out. I totally get that. The problem is that people really don't know how to. So when it comes to extending people the help they need, there should be a way of doing that where we can say, okay, hey, we see somebody who's in need, let's get them to the kind of care that we can offer. And if they don't want that care, if they refuse it, then that's a different issue. But if they are in fact needy, because again, there's a fine line, and it's hard for people to know where it is. But to your point, I mean, there are certainly professional panhandlers, and there are also people who are just they're in a bad circumstance. But then again, there are people that can't get out of a bad circumstance. We have friends that are continually in dire straits and asking for money because of some tragedy or another. So I don't know. It's I certainly understand that those situations are, if a situation is unique, but at the same point, there should be, in my opinion, a way to help them if they truly want to be helped. Again, that's up to them. But if they are looking for help, there should be services that they can plug into that can help them. If not, then that's like I said, that's a separate issue. At that point, there should be a second way of just saying, okay, well, I understand you don't want to help, but you can't stay here and panhandle. So,
and you've got the final word, Jeff. Good night, everyone, and we'll see everyone next week. And remember, Pi Day is Monday. Come to my events, support Chris Tomlinson in Carroll County, and give them some money. We need to send them to Annapolis. We need more common sense folks in Annapolis, and help us basically put the Democrats out of a job. Just put a Democrat on unemployment. Take care, everyone. We are